What an ability this guy has to score goals. What's going on, guys? Let's hope we don't freeze today. Let's hope this works. Nobody gets frozen out. We're not going to be able to finish the whole chapter today. It's late already. I know some of you got to eat dinner and do all those fun things. Great. Hi, Leah, Julia, Jack, Matt, Allie, Bells, Donnie, Maddie C, Christian, Dean, Kira, Julia. We're flying high. I bet Matt Johnson is here somewhere, I bet. Right. I thought where we were. Chapter 10. Chapter 10 is really long, so I don't think I'm going to have time to read it because I'm going to have to eat dinner too with the kids. One. Oh, no, it's not really that long. Did we read this already? Yeah, okay, we're on chapter 11. I don't think so, Lee. I don't think so. Yeah, Matt's always in the classroom. He watches on TV. He gets a YouTube TV. Let's see. Chapter is 26 pages long, so we're going to divide it into two. Preston, awesome. Ava, awesome. Donnie, we got Donnie. Neopods were light today, guys. There weren't many of us there. I don't know if you had other things going on. They were great. Ava did a great one on the Zodiacs. Julia did the whale, and Bobby did spike ball. Mr. Johnson played along with us today and kicked butt. Came in second in the two games he played, I think, in the time to climb. We missed you. From what it looks like, the math looked pretty good today. You guys look really good. I was very happy with that. I didn't get really too many messages, a couple here and there, but good questions in the math. Not really upset. Very happy that you guys are doing well. The boxes and bullets form, which is important, you guys understand. Next week, what we're going to do is I'm going to sign up. I'm going to say Matt C, Jack, Adonis, Preston, and Aaliyah. I'm going to go on live at this time just for you five. And then we're going to talk just about your sheets. And this way I can talk to 5 people at a time to find out what you need, what articles I need to find for you to help you find research. This way you could finish your sheets hopefully by Tuesday or Wednesday. There's really not a major due date on that, but I like to have most of it done. Jack, you got stuck what, math? Don't stress the writing. Again, try to fill out as much on that box and bullet sheet as you can. And then I'm going to give you each a time, and we're going to meet in groups of 5 on YouTube Live. So it's going to be like we're doing right now, except there's only going to be 5 of you in there. This way you get more time to talk, and I can help you. Jack, if you got stuck, you needed to tell me what you got stuck on, and I would have YouTubed it. Or what I found today, a lot of students were helping each other. Adonis started a nice trend with that, helping each other out, and that was really pretty cool. Other people can join the stream, Matt. See, they just can't comment. All right, you're always welcome to listen in. You could always gain some information, but it's almost like a teacher conference. We're going to be helping those kids. You're always welcome to chime in, though, definitely. But you just can't talk. You can listen in, I should say. Chiming in is the right thing. Yeah, try to post all your work. Guys, as soon as you have that chance, and click that hand in button on the assignment page so it registers that you did the work. Yeah, Adonis was great and helpful today. He really was. Then Julia helped out a little bit too, I saw. It's great to help each other. That's what you're going to find, which I like. If you could do that, that's great. Otherwise, let's get started because we've got a lot of reading to do. It's 20-something pages. We'll read about 13. and then we'll go from there. Today is a quick talk. It's late. I want to try to be eating dinner by 6 if possible. Just going to chat. After the book, Christian, we talked about that yesterday. As soon as the book is done, we'll spend one day just chatting, and in between books, we're going to do that. Guys, remember, I can't do anything about the freezing. I'm not resetting it. I'm just going. If your screen freezes, there's nothing that can be done about it. You just have to watch the stream in another way. It's the only way I can do it. We're going to be playing. We're going to be doing. We got a lot of people here right now. I want to eat at 6, Adonis. Is that all right with you? I don't want to eat later. I want to be done eating any kind of food and dessert by 7. That means I can eat by 11 tomorrow morning. You guys know that. Otherwise, I get hangry, and you don't want that. Okay. Here we go. Chapter 11. Now, the comment boards should be settled down. Only thing I want to hear right now is questions from the book. Yes, Maddie. Got to play some knee hockey. I agree. Okay, knee hockey shut down. Now, chapter 11. Here we go. Book begins. On the night of April 22nd, after another night's delay, John Wilkes Booth and David Herold finally climbed aboard the boat and rowed out into the Potomac toward Virginia. This time, they steered the correct course and after several hours spotted their destination. The mouth of a creek on the Virginia side of Potomac. They landed and disembarked, meaning they got out. Just want to check something real quick, if you don't mind. I didn't hear from Matty J. I'm not sure if he's on. I don't see him. Okay, he'll watch the live feed. And disembarked. At last, on April 23rd, 9 days after the assassination, John Wilkes Booth, David Herold set foot finally on Virginia soil. 9 days it took them to get from Washington, D.C. to Maryland to Virginia. Their contact, a former Confederate agent, Mrs. Queensberry, had a place about half an hour away on foot. Booth's leg, injured, made the brief walk impossible for him. So Herold went alone to find the woman. Elizabeth Queensberry, an ex-Confederate spy, was cautious when Herold approached her. Experience during the war had taught her to be suspicious of strangers, especially those who looked like Herold. Remember, they've been out and haven't showered really in 9 days. Herold revealed that Thomas Jones had sent him to her, which put her mind at ease. Herold revealed the nature of his request for help. He was traveling with an injured companion. They needed horses to make their way south. Suspecting or already knowing who the two strangers were, Mrs. Queensberry decided that this was too big a job to handle by herself. With the help of loyal operatives, she arranged for horses. She would get the two moving south as quickly as possible. Speed was now of the essence. Mrs. Queensberry arranged for horses and food, which Herold brought to the waiting booth. After eating, they saddled up. Dr. Richard Stewart's house was the next stop on their journey. However, when they arrived, to their dismay, the doctor refused to help them. What? Did they find the way in the right? Yes, it just took them a whole day. They had to wait a whole nother day, and then they went back in the boat at the same time they left the day before, and they got there. Ex-Confederate means there's no Confederacy anymore because the war is over. Everybody's back to the United States. So ex-Confederate spy meant that they were at one time a spy, but there's no war anymore. So it's not necessary. So they went to this doctor's house, and the doctor refused to let them in at first. He said, no. This lady said that we could come here. Miss Queensberry sent us. I don't want you here, the doctor said. Herold pleaded their case, mentioning their Confederate credentials and the recommendation from Dr. Mudd. Stewart, unconvinced and suspicious of the elaborate and ridiculous cover story. Herold spun for him, reluctantly offered to feed them. After eating, they would have to be on their way. No, that's Julia. You're correct. Ryan, the doctor didn't want to help because he probably knew that this is John Wilkes Booth, and I don't want to be connected to him. Yeah, I think that the doctor knew that it was Lincoln's killer, and he didn't want any part of it. Dr. Stewart was a great disappointment to Booth, failing to display the Southern hospitality and honor that Booth had come to expect. Booth and Harold sat down to dinner with Stewart and his family. How out of place these dirty, tired travelers must have been at the Stewart's fine table. But Booth's filthy clothes, unshaven face, and pungent body could not conceal his obvious good manners, his excellent breeding, educated voice, and physical poise marked him as a gentleman. By now, Dr. Stewart knew exactly who his visitors were. They were dirty, desperate, and on the run, and one had a broken leg. They fit the profile of the men now known to the whole country as Lincoln's assassins. After dinner, Stewart practically ordered Booth and Harold to leave his home, which they did without protest. Later, Booth would write a letter to Dr. Stewart in his book, chiding him for his lack of Southern hospitality and honor. As an insult, Booth enclosed a small sum of money as a payment for the meal they had eaten, but not enjoyed at Stewart's. So Lincoln was Booth was so upset with the way he was treated there that he actually wrote a note and put a little bit of money in that note, almost like, here, we didn't want your food. Here's payment for it. I don't want you to ever think you did me a favor because you have no honor. I thought so, Matty J. I just wasn't sure where you were. Dean, okay. The doctor is a man. The girl, Queensberry, she was fine with them. She just knew it was too big of a job to get horses and take care of these guys by herself. So she sent them on their way to the next house. She didn't know that the doctor was going to be rude to them. And I don't even know if the doctor's going to turn them in. He just doesn't want to be connected to it. It's like a bad rating on Yelp. Exactly, Isabella. That's the line of the day. Let me just find out why I am. Denied a bed and hospitality for the night, Booth and Harold continued to search for transportation at the house of one of Stewart's neighbors, a man of color named Lucas. Lucas, too, was reluctant to help the strangers. Under protest, he finally agreed to rent them a team of horses and a wagon, with his son Charlie acting as driver for the trip south. It took threats of violence by Booth to persuade Lucas to allow the fugitives to stay the night at his cabin. In the morning, Booth paid $20 for the use of the wagon, the team, and the driver. They go to house. Remember, they're in the South, so there's more chance of people that want to help them. When they arrived at their destination, Port Conway, young Charles Lucas stopped the wagon in front of the home of William Rollins, a farmer and fisherman. There, Booth and Harold quenched their thirst and sought a ride south across the Rappahannock River to Port Royal, then on to a nearby railroad station. The tide was rising, and the fisherman was eager to prepare for the day's catch. He agreed to ferry Booth and Harold across the river as soon as he set his fishing nets. At that moment, 3 mounted figures appeared on the hill just above Port Conway. They were soldiers. And the wagon driven by Charlie Lucas, parked in front of William Rollins' house, caught their attention. The men spurred their horses and descended into town. Booth and Harold tensed for action. An encounter with soldiers was inevitable. Harold walked toward the riders as they approached, creating distance between them and Booth. The jackets the soldiers wore were not the blue of Union soldiers. A few casual questions, and Harold determined they were not Union soldiers, but former Confederate soldiers. They were likely to be sympathetic to their plight. Harold gave the soldiers false names and claimed he and Booth were on their way to join up with the Confederates themselves. He pretended he was an enthusiastic militant Confederate, eager to continue to fight the war, wherever it was. One of the soldiers, William Jett, reacted skeptically to Harold's story. He asked a simple question: "Who are you?" The soldiers that they thought were Union soldiers were not Union soldiers. They were Confederate soldiers that were coming home from the war. Remember, wherever the war was all fought in the South. So they met these three guys and they said, "Listen, these guys are going to be on our side. We're not going to tell them who we are yet because we don't know if we could trust them. But we're going to tell them that we want to be with them. We want to be soldiers like them. So can we be with you?" He didn't get caught. These guys are on his side. Harold replied, his voice trembling, and then he gave the answer: "We are the assassinators of the president. Over there is John Wilkes Booth, the man who killed the president." Jett told the other two soldiers, Ruggles and Bainbridge, the exciting news he had just learned. When Rollins returned from setting his nets, he asked both if he was ready to be ferried across the river now. The soldiers huddled with the fugitives and hatched a plan. They would accompany the assassins in the ferry boat and help them on the other side. So now they went from 2 people to 5. And 3 of those guys are soldiers. Cavalry it's not anyone's called the cavalry. It just means the war. It means the soldiers. That's what cavalry means. They're not caught though, Kira. These guys are on their side. If anything, now they have more power. So now Booth has 5 people, well, himself and 4 others that are on his side. And 3 of them are war veterans. They know how to fight. Let's see if they help. They agree. Listen, we're going to go on the boat with you. And when we get to the other side, we know a lot of people there. We're going to be able to help you. Not 6, 3 soldiers, Harold and Booth. Lucas, the driver, is just going to drive them and come back. He's not a part of it. I don't think he knows. The man who piloted the men across the river, the strangers, were unremarkable. Just another band of bedraggled rebels heading home after losing the war. The successful crossing represented a high point of this phase of the escape. After many disappointments in a row, they had crossed safely south and found loyal Confederate friends. Overcome with emotion, Booth shouted out, "I'm safe in glorious old Virginia. Thank God." So, Booth's feeling good right now. He feels like he's in Virginia. He's got help. He thinks he's going to get out. He thinks he's going to escape. And guess what, guys? I never told you how it ends. He might. He might. This might have been just what he needed. Willie Jett, Ruggles, Bainbridge, and the fugitives made their way to Locust Hill, a farm owned by Richard H. Garrett, seeking shelter for the night. Willie introduced himself and presented Booth. "Here is a wounded Confederate soldier that we want you to take care of for a day or so. Will you do it?" Garrett thought of his sons, who had returned from the war safely just a few days ago. He would return that blessing with kindness. "Sure, I'll take him in." So Garrett, whose sons had fought in the war, had just come home. They're Southerners. They fought against the Union. He finds out from Willie Jett and Bainbridge that they have a wounded soldier. He needs to stay at your house for the night. Will you do it? He don't know who John Wilkes Booth is. And he says, "Yeah, I'll take him in. I'll give him a place to stay." So now it's another thing working in Booth's favor. Things are starting to turn around. They can't stay in one house because people are searching all the time. He's got to keep moving. But now that he's in Virginia, he feels like he's a little bit safer. The soldiers took Harold with them on a ride into nearby town, while Booth spent the night of April 24th at Garrett's farm. Booth spun a believable tale for the Garretts. He had been wounded in battle and was now chased by the Union cavalry. Until now, most of the investigation and manhunt were focused on Southern Maryland. That was about to change. Lafayette Baker, the notorious detective and War Department agent and a favorite of Stanton's, had been in Washington since April 16th. Since his arrival, his deceitful, egotistical, and self-promoting ways had rubbed a number of the manhunters the wrong way. He even tried to steal other detectives' leads. He was snooping around the telegraph office when the message came in. 2 men had been seen crossing the Potomac. This report required action. Lafayette Baker seized the telegraph, rushed back to his headquarters, and alerted his cousin, Luther Byron. The news of the sighting, Lafayette said, "I think Booth has crossed the river, and I want you to go there right now." So, like anything, Lafayette Baker, who's the general, he wants all the credit. So he has all these people working on the case, and he's trying to get everyone's information because he wants to be the one that finds Booth. He happens to be at the headquarters when the telegraph comes in that there was a report of 2 men crossing the Potomac. We know that Booth and Harold crossed the Potomac. We know that the Potomac connects Maryland and Virginia. So now, while everybody was in Maryland, they got the telegraph. He calls his cousin. He goes, "Listen, move the units. I want everyone going to Virginia now." So guess what? They're coming for him again. But now they're coming from the south in Virginia. Might not be as easy to get them there. Yes, 2 men had been seen crossing the river on April 16th, but they were not Booth and Harold. A telegraphed order to the commander of the 16th New York Cavalry ordered a commissioned officer, Lieutenant Edmund P. Doherty, to report to Luther Byron Baker. Baker handed him freshly printed photographs of 3 men. Doherty did not recognize 2 of them, but the 3rd man was John Wilkes Booth. He was going after Lincoln's assassin. While Colonel Baker stayed behind in Washington to monitor telegraph traffic and protest his interest and protect his interest in the ransom money, which the reward money, everybody wanted that money. It was all about the money, as always, guys. Right now, it's April 25th, April 24th in the book. Edward Doherty, Luther Baker, and Everton Conger made their way across the water by steamboat, landing in Virginia. From there, the troops traveled south over land on horseback. If they kept moving, the soldiers of the 16th New York would reach the same spot where the fugitives had crossed the Rappahannock by tomorrow afternoon, April 25th. That evening, John Wilkes Booth enjoyed a leisurely supper with the Garretts. He relished the company and the genuine hospitality, so different from the doctor's house, who was impolite. Harold rode into nearby town by Bowling Green with the Confederates to purchase, of all things, a new pair of shoes. He would spend the night with them and rejoin Booth tomorrow, April 25th, at Garrett's farm. Booth would sleep in a real bed tonight. It had been days since he had slept in a proper bed, and this was the first night since the assassination that Booth and Harold spent apart. Nearby, the cavalry divided their forces. One column was commanded by Everton Conger, one by Edmund Doherty. They searched farmhouses and barns, questioned the occupants, making their way south to Port Conway. Booth's head start over the manhunters began to shrink. It had taken Booth 10 days to travel from Washington to Port Conway. It would take the cavalry, alerted by telegraph and traveling by steamboat, just 1 day to travel that distance. So because they went the wrong way on the boat, they had to wait in the thickets for a couple days. It took them 10 days to get there. Now that the cavalry knows where he is, or at least knows they had a report of where he is, they took a steamboat. Took them 1 day to get there. Today, in today's days with cars, take you 5 hours. Want to take a plane? Take you 45 minutes. Crazy, right? On Monday, April 24th, Dr. Samuel Mudd saw soldiers too. They had come to his farm to finally arrest him and take him into the old Capitol prison. Confined and isolated, Mudd would wait to learn what price he would have to pay for his part in hiding Lincoln's assassins. The morning of April 25th, Booth slept in. He talked and played with the Garrett children. He showed them his pocket compass, delighted them by making the needle dance when he held the point of the pocket knife above it. Earlier in the afternoon, the Garretts and Booth sat at the dinner table. Young John Garrett, back from an errand at a neighboring farm, reported that the U.S. government was offering a $140,000 reward for Abraham Lincoln's assassin. The family discussed the assassination with Booth, speculating on why the murderer did what he did. The actor, still pretending to be a Confederate soldier, commented on his own crime and analyzed for the Garretts the motives of Lincoln's killer. So imagine the kid comes home, one of Garrett's sons, and say, listen, you know they're offering $140,000 to whoever captures Lincoln's assassin? He doesn't know John Wilkes Booth is the assassin. He just thinks he's a soldier or injured. And then they talk about it. And the dad said, I wonder why he did it. And John Wilkes Booth said, you know what? Who knows? But this is what I think. This is what I think he did this. He knows why he did it, but he's pretending to be a Confederate soldier. So he doesn't want to let on that he's John Wilkes Booth. Booth needed rest and would happily have spent a month with the Garretts recovering from his injury and regaining his strength. But it was time to move on. He asked for a map of Virginia. He said he would make his way to the town of Orange Courthouse, where he hoped to get a horse. He would ride south to join a Confederate army still in the field. That's a lie. He's not a soldier. He's not joining anybody. He's just keeping up with his charade. Booth should have left hours ago. He was far too north still, within striking distance of Union troops. He wants to get into the deep south of Virginia. That's what he's looking to do, and he's not there yet. That would be cool. Don't worry about the movie name yet. It's a great idea, but let's talk about where we are right now. Booth came out onto the porch. He became agitated when he saw riders moving past the farm's front gate. To his obvious relief, the men just rode by. The danger was over for the moment, but Richard Garrett was alarmed by Booth's reaction to the riders. 5 minutes later, a lone man walked up the road to the farm. Booth asked an 11-year-old Richard Jr. to run and fetch his pistols and gun belt from his room upstairs. The Garretts expected a gun battle to break out in their yard at any moment, but Booth did not draw his pistols. It was David Harold returning from his overnight stay a few miles south. So now the Garretts are getting suspicious. Like, what does this guy need his guns for? Why is he so panicked when horses drive by? A guy's walking up the street. He's looking to have a gunfight. That's strange behavior. So they're starting to get a little suspicious of their guest. Why do I always drop the book and lose my spot? To David Harold's dismay, Booth intended to spend another night at the farm. He would ask the Garretts for another night of hospitality for him and for Harold. With his father temporarily away from the farm on business, it fell to the son, John, to decide whether to take in the two men or not. To their surprise, John Garrett refused to take them in for the night. Booth's panic at the sight of the riders was a tip-off. Something was not right. John Garrett was suspicious of Booth now and said he had to go. The 16th New York Cavalry rode into Port Conway on Tuesday, April 25th, late in the afternoon. Luther Baker spotted William Rollins, the man who had offered to ferry Booth, Harold, Jet, Ruggles, and Bainbridge to Port Royal. From questioning Rollins, Baker discovered that a man with a broken leg had crossed the river the day before. Around noon, it must be Booth. That meant the fugitives were only about a day's ride ahead of them. Baker learned something else that interested him. Booth was now in the company of 3 Confederate soldiers that could aid to the danger of the mission to capture Booth. Rollins then identified photographs of Harold and Booth. Rollins and his wife also identified the 3 rebel soldiers, Willie Jett, Ruggles, and Bainbridge. In a stroke of good luck, they also had an idea where Willie Jett might be headed. Jett had been courting a young lady whose father kept a hotel nearby in Bowling Green. The soldiers' next destination was clear. Cross the Rappahannock, then on to look for Jet. So now they identified all 5 people that were on the boat with pictures. And they know where one of the guy Jet was going. So that's where they're headed. They're going to go talk to Willie Jet, one of the Confederate soldiers. It was 4:00 p.m. on Tuesday, April 25th. John Garrett worried about what to do with his now unwanted guests. Soon, 2 horsemen riding quickly from the direction of Port Royal galloped toward the house at high speed. Booth and Harold left the front porch to meet them. Ruggles and Bainbridge hurried to bring the news. The Union cavalry was coming. The Confederates had seen the patrol crossing the Rappahannock on the ferry. Worse news, the patrol had seen the Confederates watching them from the ridge overlooking the ferry. Bainbridge and Ruggles turned their horses around and galloped away, heading away from where they had seen the patrol. Booth and Harold looked at each other and without exchanging a word, ran for the woods behind Garrett's barn and waited and waited. But no cavalry arrived. Not on this day. So, Bainbridge and Ruggles came and said, listen, we see the cavalry. They're coming. They're here. It's not going to be long before they find you. Harold and Booth then ran to the woods behind the Garrett's farm in hopes to hide. But nobody came. For whatever reason, nobody came. If Booth's agitation about the riders worried Garrett, his flight into the woods with Harold frightened him even more. John Garrett complained forcefully, asking them to leave the house immediately. While he argued with them, a thunderous sound shook the earth. There goes the cavalry now, Garrett explained. It was Union soldiers, but incredibly, again, they rode right past the front gate and raced on toward Bowling Green. Because who's in Bowling Green? Jet. They don't know exactly where Booth is yet. They're coming, but they're coming for Jet first. They think he's the connection to Booth. They drive right past the Garrett farm. He's escaping again. And raced on Tobo in pursuit of Willie Jet. John Garrett, certain Harold knew the patrol's purpose, asked them again to leave at once. Somebody's going crazy. I'm getting texts like crazy. Let's see what's going on. My daughter. Can I get Fortnite? This is the text I'm getting. You can't see it. It's too bright. But it says, can I get Fortnite? Claire has it. I'll deal with her later. You know I'm not a Fortnite fan. Anyway, back to the book. Once again, Booth and Harold needed transportation. Where could they find horses or hire a team and a wagon? Garrett agreed to help them, taking them where they wanted to go himself if necessary. To his dismay, Booth and Harold said they did not want to leave until morning. The mood at the dinner table that night differed from the friendlier atmosphere of the night before. The reluctant host talked no more of Lincoln's assassination, for he knew he was sitting at the table with him. After supper, the fugitives again discussed where they might find transportation, probably horses. The Civil War had consumed most of the good horses in the South. They were scarce and valuable. John Garrett grew increasingly suspicious of the strangers. Did they intend to steal his horses? Booth and Harold sat on the front porch, watching the evening skies, last clouds and colors fade to black. The scent of the spring night filled their nostrils until the sweetly burning smoke rising from Booth's pipe flavored the air. The reluctant Garretts had nourished and sustained Booth for another day. Tomorrow morning, Wednesday, April 26th, he would continue his journey south. It would be the 12th day. But first, they would need another night. They planned to spend the night in the bed Garrett had offered Booth the night before. John Garrett stunned the two by barking out that they could not sleep in the house. Well, could I sleep under the house then? Impossible, said Garrett. The dogs sleep there, and they would bite them. Harold put the matter to rest, announcing they would sleep in the tobacco barn then. So he has a farm and a house. And under the house, there's like a lot of space in the southern houses. But the dogs were under there. There's like a pool house, it looks like. It's like a tobacco house, like a little shed. Harold sees that and says, "Can we stay in that?" They agree. You could stay in that for the night. They called it the tobacco barn. Then John Garrett still did not know the identity of the man he was throwing out of his hole. He was pretty sure the two who they were in some kind of trouble, but it was unlikely he knew exactly if it was Lincoln's killer or not. Booth and Harold headed toward the tobacco barn, which stood 100 feet or so from the main house. It was 48 feet by 50 feet, with a slanted roof and a wide open slats in the walls. Slats means there was openings that you could see through. You understand? Yeah, they dog in the South. They fenced in yard. The dogs would stay under the house. I mean, that was very common. By 9 o'clock p.m., Booth and Harold had unrolled their blankets and settled in for the night. They were unaware that the Garretts, already guilty of inhospitality, were conspiring to commit a worse offense: treachery. Lincoln's assassin had just walked into a trap. The Garretts swung the barn door shut behind the fugitives. Neither Booth nor Harold paid attention to the black iron lock on the door as they passed through the doorway. John Garrett was sure the men were up to something. They were fearful they were going to steal their horses in the middle of the night. What better way to prevent them from leaving than by locking the strangers in the tobacco shed until morning? Garretts were worried that in the middle of the night, Harold and Booth would steal their horses. So they walk them into the shed. You guys could stay in the shed tonight. They shut the door. They lock them in, almost like a prison. Booth and Harold don't know. But now they're locked in this tobacco room and cannot get out. So if they want to leave in the middle of the night, if they wanted to steal horses, if they wanted to just escape something, they could not get out. They were locked in this farm. And that's where today ends. Oof. A great next paragraph. Woo! I even know what happens, and I can't wait for the next paragraph. But you guys will have to wait till tomorrow. I hope you tune in for Chasing Lincoln's Killer, the conclusion of Chapter 11. Almost 6 o'clock. Go enjoy your night. Isabella, I hope you have the best birthday. I'm sorry to leave it in suspense, but we look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. We love you guys. Have a great Thursday.